Hello and welcome back to the Wealthologist Weekly. This is your go-to source for really demystifying the complex world of financial planning and wealth management. And hopefully I make it a little bit fun and approachable for you to understand as well. As always, I'm your host, Chris Hobart. And today I want to dive into a topic that's, it's been making the rounds in the economic circles, and it may have an impact on your wallet. It's inflation. Specifically, though, we're going to talk about inflation forecasts and the potential of political changes. Now, I want to go ahead and tell you something. We are going to talk about politicians today, and we're going to use some different names. This is not an endorsement of one or picking on the other. It's just a matter of talking about some things that have been in the news lately. All right, I threw that out there. Are you ready? Let's get into it. First things first, I want to break down inflation, how it works, what it really is. And I'm going to make it super simple for you. Imagine you go to your favorite coffee shop. You go to buy your favorite cup of coffee, and it costs you $1 more than it did last year. Folks, that is called inflation. It's basically the general increase in prices, which then affects how much you can buy with your money. Now, inflation, it's not always a bad thing, but when it gets too high, it can actually become a problem for everyone, consumers and investors alike. Specifically, what if your paycheck doesn't keep up with the cost of inflation? You can actually lose purchasing value while your income stays the same, but you're buying a lot less with that money. Now, recently, we've seen some interesting trends in inflation numbers. According to a recent report from First Trust Advisors, the Consumer Price Index, or what's called the CPI, this is a measurement of average changes over time in the prices that are paid by urban consumers for a kind of a general basket of market goods or consumer goods and services. But this CPI, it's shown some modest increases. But the thing is, the forecast isn't looking really optimistic for the coming decade. What we're expecting right now from this report is a consistent 3% increase per year. Now, why is this important? Well, this is up from a 1.8% annual rate before the pandemic. So what does that mean for you or me or all of us, right? Well, it's a sign that prices might simply keep going up, but not necessarily at the rate that some might fear or what we've seen over the past couple of years, which seems like it's been skyrocketing. Now, here's where things are going to get a bit more spicy, right? There's a theory floating around that if former President Trump were to return to office, we could potentially see a significant jump in inflation. Question is why? The idea is that his policies on things like tariffs and immigration and Federal Reserve appointments could push prices up. But I want us to actually think about this. Let's pause a little bit and chew on this. During Trump's first term, even when we did see higher tariffs, inflation actually remained pretty subdued until the pandemic shook everything up and both parties started printing a lot of money to try and solve a problem. So maybe to get a better understanding, let's consider what really drives inflation. It's not just, tariffs and immigration and things like that, but a lot of it has more to do with monetary policy. Like I said, printing money. So even if Trump were to get in there and influence the Fed, we got to remember the Fed, it actually operates with a lot of checks and balances. So appointees need Senate confirmation, so you can't just railroad somebody through. And a lot of these decisions are made by regional bank presidents as well, who aren't directly appointed by the president. Also, if we look at some past trends, we've seen that inflation tends to rise under both Republicans and Democrats, regardless of their policies or their politics. So while political changes can influence economic conditions, they aren't really the sole drivers of inflation itself. All right, I know we touched on some politics. We tried to talk a little bit about inflation. The reality is inflation has been a pest for us for the past couple of years. What I want you to remember is whether inflation is ticking up or it's ticking down, the real key is to stay informed and adapt your financial planning accordingly. Don't let headlines, put you in a fear cycle. You got to understand the different factors at play so you can better navigate through the different noise and the talking heads and everything. All right, as always, thanks for tuning in. And I'm going to catch you next week with more insights on how you can manage your wealth wisely and, more importantly, keep your financial health in check. Until then, keep investing in your financial literacy and take care.